Charlotte lost a sister but gained a brother.
Walter Weintraub went to the police station, but he got holed up.
And what do we fans want from Babylon Berlin Season 5?
All that and more on this episode of Babylon
Berlin
Babble Podcast. Babylon Berlin.
Babylon Berlin.
Babylon Berlin Babble.
Babble.
Babylon Berlin
Babble.
Jawohl.
Welcome to Babylon Berlin Babble. My name's Bubba, and with me, as always, is somebody who literally is heartbroken when his dad betrayed the Nazis. It's Double M Matt Murdoch. How you doing, Moritz? Matt Murdoch.
Oh, now I am Triple M. I don't think I like that comparison, although I will say that Moritz did the smart thing, got the heck out of Dodge, which is what
very
you
much
should
so.
do. Yeah.
Listeners, we're going to be breaking down the final 4 episodes of Season 4 of Babylon Berlin. That's episodes 9 through 12. A whole lot happens. Did we like it? Did we hate it? We're going to be doing our classic games like Who's the Wurst? We're going to be taking a Ja, oder, Nein question quiz. We're going to have our Nyssen of the week, our sweet Scheisse moment. Matt's going to talk the music. Plus, we're going to go over your feedback. And we're going to ask ourselves, there's only one season left. Season 5 will be the final season of Babylon Berlin. What do we, fans of the show, want to see? First up, Matt, what is your rating out of 10 for this final 4 episodes of Season 4?
Tough one for me. I kind of predicted that there were going to be a lot of little mini endings. We got that.
We did.
None of them felt all that satisfying to me.
No.
But I can't rate anything lower than a 7 out of 10. So
Okay.
I'm going to give this 8 out of 10, what I like to call triple C's.
Wait, triple C's?
Cop killer Charlottes.
Heck yeah.
I mean, I was so certain that the doctor was going to be gone by the end of this season. I mean, it was perfectly laid out.
Yes.
And then Gereon bails. He says, no, Armenian, it's all right. We don't got to do this. I don't fear him anymore. Oh, wait, now I've got an army of zombies at the end. And it's just a ridiculous ending to me. I have no idea what's going on there.
Matt, did this not prove you should never go to Double C?
Double C.
Catholic confession, because they'll talk you out of having your annoying brother, Dr. Anno Schmidt, killed. Oh, my goodness gracious.
Absolutely. I mean, the endings of season 3 and season 4, I'm just kind of like, I guess they're supposed to be WTF moments, but my WTF stands for something not, I think, intended by the showrunners. It's kind of, it still stands for WTF, but I'm just like, it's more in disgust than in shock. Gereon seeing monsters in the sewer at the end of season 3. Granted, that was metaphoric or whatever. I don't know what to think of these dudes. These dudes that just look like zombies that are just kind of swaying in the wind like wheat. Tell me what's going on there. And why has Anno been doing this? And why does he think that Gereon is suddenly going to want to lead him? I don't get it. Bubba. Straighten me
8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 is not your would go down to 7. How did it get 8?
It got 8 because I just adore some of these characters and I love the way that some of the storylines played out. And for the most part, while the mini endings weren't all that successful, in my opinion, some of them did have some cool moments. And they gave me a lot of fodder for this podcast. So it raises it up by 1 point, which is, still not great on my scale, but better than on most people's scales, I would imagine. But what about you, Bubba? I mean, how did you rate this episode?
Well, Double M, you defined it exactly how I did. My rating's going to be slightly different, but spoiler alert, it's exactly what you said. The likability of these characters, we've watched them so long. We've grown to enjoy all of them. Even in some ways, many of the flawed characters I've come to enjoy. That said, I'm only going to give this final 4 episodes, the final third of the season, what I like to call 7 double E's out of 10.
Double E's?
Yes. Well, what I mean by double E's is it was enjoyably empty. If you had asked me, Matt, of all these crazy, there's so many season 4 storylines. You're like, what's the big one? What's the main storyline in season 4? Through the first 8 episodes, I would have said, obviously, it's about the police who murdered, teenage Benny. and the Jury of the White Hand and Station 14 killing people. It included all the main characters, Charlotte, Rath, Toni, Moritz, the entire murder squad. And it even slightly touches on the Miss Elisabeth Katelbach story because Judge Voss was the judge who threw the book at Katelbach. And so I thought, oh, obviously this is the main storyline. This is our train car storyline. This is our slasher on the film set storyline. And suddenly it gets wrapped up rather easily in episode 9. What? That's how you wrap up what I consider the main storyline with many episodes still to go? And instead, the season kind of ends on Stennes' storyline. You know, Stennes was in prison for most of the episodes. It was like the show forgot about that storyline, and it did come back and get kind of tense. But to me, that's a storyline that doesn't include Charlotte. And if Charlotte isn't in some ways tied to how your season's going to end, you've made a terrible mistake. The way I would describe how I feel about this is look at the Goldstein, Alfred Nyssen, Blue Rothschild storyline. It gets wrapped up so anticlimactically, it drove me crazy. And yet, when Helga has escaped the kidnapping, she's walked through the woods, she's somehow made it back to Nyssen Castle. She sees Alfred there, who's like, not worried, living a carefree life, and she slaps him. Honest to God, Matt, I laughed for like a full minute. It was so funny. Now, the whole storyline was anticlimactic, but that moment made me laugh so much, again, because I love these characters so much. That said, as a huge fan of this show, I think back to how the train car storyline ended up with a fight aboard out-of-control train with gold in it and people shooting each other at the top of the train. Like, that is a giant kind of movie ending. This season ends up with a whimper as Wendt goes to confront Stennes at the Nazi, headquarters there in Berlin. And pretty much Stennes' group didn't have any guns and pretty much had to just say, okay, you beat us. Anticlimactic, but I'm with you. I love these characters. I love all of them, even if they're in anticlimactic storylines. And so I could only go down to 7 out of 10. This is, for me, the weakest season of the 4, but what this is just kind of reinforced, which I knew probably in the middle of the first season, is that I like following these characters. I like Charlotte. I like Rath. I like Nyssen, even though all his money's going to somehow end up supporting the Nazi party. And you're like, no, I've grown to like Helga, even though they're turning Helga into kind of a villain because she's at the end of the season like, ooh, I want to meet this Hitler, this power player. Bring him here to us. I still obviously hate Wendt. But Baum, who I've probably been mispronouncing his name, this week it sounded more like Boom. Yeah, Boom, you need your money. He sold out the cops. He allowed the massacre at the murder station. Yet when I saw him get his child with a wheelchair into the first floor flat, I was like, okay, Baum, I'm with you. And so 7 out of 10, that's how I feel.
Okay. Well, I the only thing I disagree with you on there is I still would rank season 3 a little under this season.
Okay, that's fair.
And not by much. Just the fact that, and maybe it was just the fact that we were meeting Esther for the first time and things.
Well, that's
and
a good
the
call.
story was so centered around her. I was invested in her by the end of it, but I spent a good portion of that season just saying, why?
Esther, who drove me crazy all through season 3, somehow I felt so sorry for her at the end of this season. Didn't you? I mean, in some ways it's like, hey, I'm going to go to Hollywood and get in movies. She's getting away from a country falling into, authoritarianism. So you should feel sad for her. But what went down between her and the Armenian was a heartbreaker. And I felt bad for Esther. I did want her to have that drink with Goldstein and maybe build a new life somehow. Yeah.
Agreed.
Listeners, we love to say, who cares what we think? You can hear we're both a bit down on these final 4 episodes, but our opinion doesn't matter. What matters is your opinion. We want you to reach out to us and tell us how you felt about season 4. You can, if you're on YouTube, just go down in the comments, type away, let us have it. Let us have it in German or English, however you feel. Or you can reach out to us on social media like Twitter/X, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, at Double PHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters, at Double PHQ on all social media. Facebook, just search Double PHQ. come and join us because we got one more season to go, Matt. The 5th season, here's the news. It's scheduled to start production in autumn of 2024. That's just a few months away from where we are now. It received €2 million in funding from the Dusseldorf film-based, I can't even pronounce it, but a film commission there has already chipped in €2 million. That's good to know.
Absolutely. And that means that we might get this series by 2028. I'm so looking forward to it.
Let's go, MHZ Choice, Megahertz Choice. Get us that series as soon as possible. How about that?
Yeah, that's what I say too.
Listeners, we're going to, because we are who we are, we have to play our classic games. Matt, it is time for the classic question that goes right to the heart of the matter on Babylon Berlin. It's Ja oder Nein. Yes or no, Ja oder Nein. I'm going to ask our wonderful panelist, Matt Murdock, a question. He's going to answer Ja, he agrees. Nein, he disagrees. And we're going to dive into some of the themes, storylines, fun, if you can call it fun, of season 4. Are you ready? Double M.
I am ready, Bubba.
You're supposed to answer Ja. It's Ja oder Nein. You've lost one point.
Yeah, I am ready. I'm at -1 already.
Okay, all right, here we go. Question 1. Given that we around the world here in the summer of 2024, we're recently celebrating the Olympic Games. Should Wegener have been considered for the Olympic rowing team of the 1932 LA Games, considering he had to row out and murder Goldstein's father? Ja oder Nein?
Put him in any Olympics when he's younger.
Yep.
He's definitely a ja, because this guy, as I pointed out in the previous segment, commitment to a cause. You tell him he's going to be on the national rowing team. You think he's not going to get even better at it? He already is fast enough to escape an exploding boat. Imagine how much faster he could be with a little bit of motivation for gold. You know, it seems to be that he likes to make everybody else money, but if he got an actual gold medal, imagine how much that might motivate him. I say ja. What do you say, Bubba?
I'm going to go, forgive me, Matt, a bit more serious on this topic. Only a bit more. One thing that you kind of want to love about Babylon Berlin is that these, you almost want to call them small side characters who you almost don't pay much attention to. They grow into big things. Wendt, we keep screaming about Scarface. Wendt, in season 1, he really isn't in it much, but he grows into a big role. The right-hand man this season to Walter Weintraub, who seems to have been setting up Walter Weintraub, this character, this short mobster character, we've been calling Fuchs, he has been in this show since the first season, and suddenly he's playing a giant role here in season 4. And so Wegener, the fact that he has been in 23 of these episodes, and yet because he's always such a minor character, you recognize him, but you don't pay that much attention to him. Right. But the fact that he's been here since the beginning and now plays such a vital role, I think that's actually really cool. So to me, I tip my cap to him. I say, good job. I say, yeah, get on the Olympic squad, Wegener. You did it. You earned it.
Yeah. I really enjoyed not only the way that his intentions got turned, but then the way that he kind of faced the music. He took the jewel to Goldstein, but only after he found out that he wasn't going to be able to fence it, which I think was his intention in the first place, because nobody knew that he had taken it before that. And I don't know if he was taking it. That's the thing, is I never got the motivation for him taking it in the first place, Bubba. One of the things that really struck me was, I think, okay, is he just trying to get it away from Helga? Is he that much committed to Mother Nyssen that he's just trying to get it away from Helga and keep it safe away from her, which is a possibility. But then when he's willing to just go ahead and fence it because Mama Nyssen's gone, maybe he was just looking for a little bit of money, trying to get out of that life. You know what I mean? That yes, master life that he had been serving for a long time.
These characters, these minor characters, what's fun is Babylon Berlin allows them to grow and have bigger roles as the season goes on. I almost think that to the detriment of characters like Henning and Cherwinski, the Tweedledee and Tweedledum of the police department, they need to give them more to do in season 5. He got his killing done pretty good.
Well, now, I've got a
let's hear it.
9 question for you, Bubba. because we've talked about this just a little bit, kind of in a silly way, but we could talk about this more in a serious way. Sure. The Armenian, this Ja oder Nein question is, the Armenian has actually likely caused a much larger power vacuum in terms of the criminal that will be more headaches for the Buddha in the long run. Ja oder Nein.
The fact that in the police department, they knew all of these mobsters. We always talk about Iron Elsa and Walter Weintraub. The cops knew these mobsters. And now that they're all gone, there could be a power vacuum if Edgar, the Armenian, can't take over the organized crime in Berlin. And that'll cause trouble for the Buddha. I think I'm going to vote 9 for the short term, mainly because this series, what was so fascinating and I loved, I should say, so much in the first couple of seasons, was how the Nazi threat, the looming Nazi threat that we all knew would be coming, really was hidden in the background for so much of the first season. Kind of all the seasons, it is kind of still not the main focus. Right. And so I don't know history well. I mentioned that I didn't know anything about Stennes until I looked him up about when I saw him in season 3. Yeah, I got to keep mentioning Matt. But to me, the fact that we must be reaching a point in history when you cannot ignore what the Nazi Party's takeover is going to do. And so I think in season 5, there's no way that they can't really focus on, okay, our country is falling to authoritarianism. And you wonder what kind of role authoritarianism will allow somebody like a known mobster like the Armenian to have, especially the fact that he's not German. He is considered Armenian in this realm. I really get worried. So I'm going to say 9. The mob is not going to be the main problem, and the death of all the mobsters is not going to be a main problem for the Buddha in season 5. I think it's going to be the Nazi Party. What do you think, Matt? What's your answer to this one? That's a good question.
Well, mine would probably be 9 as well, Bubba. You've convinced me of that portion simply for the fact that if we're going to have a 5th and final season, it has to deal with a lot more of the Nazi Party. And I kind of feel like now they've almost kind of wrapped up the whole criminal storyline a little bit. And we're just supposed to assume that the Armenian has scooped up all of these organizations. Now, in real life, I can't see that happening because those organizations don't just collapse. The people within them start fighting with each other in order to take them over. So I can't see just one guy swooping in and doing that, especially a guy that they think's been dead for a year or whatever. So in the realistic sense, I would say yeah, but in the story sense, you're absolutely right. We need to move on. And it's interesting how it's been present, but it hasn't been in the forefront. Think about the whole speech that Lytton made after Katelbach's trial when he said, everything has changed.
Yes.
This is the first indication of a ruling that shows that there is no justice, that there's something else steering everything now. And you could say, well, it wasn't really directly the Nazi Party that was having an effect on that, but it was people who were in support of their ideas, like Voss, that was doing things like that. I love how it's subtly brought up and you're constantly reminded of it, but it's not so much in your face where you just say, oh, this is just a Nazi show.
Okay, great question. Here's a question for you. You ready?
I'll try.
Mother Nissen's body, as far as I can tell, was never found. Was it found? Ja oder Nein? If it wasn't found, does that mean in season 5 we will have the reveal of the still living Mother Nissen? Double M, Ja oder Nein, 2 for 1.
Oh, wow. I believe
and I'm asking if it was found because this is a German show. Sometimes it's hard to hear exactly what's going on.
Well, I don't know if it was found, but I could have sworn that it was seen. So I'm going to say, yeah, that she is dead.
Okay.
9, that she'll be revealed in season 5, because I could have sworn that it was her body that Baum saw in the river when he was looking over the bridge about to jump off himself.
Was it that? Oh, wow. If I missed that, I feel terrible. I knew there was a body in the river. I didn't know it was her. Holy smokes.
Well, I can't definitively say because it was underwater, but I thought I saw some white, longer hair on that body. That was my interpretation. Could be completely wrong.
No, I think you're right, Matt. I think I missed it. Oh my God. Mother Nyssen saved Bomb from killing himself. Mother Nyssen is the reason why the mobsters were allowed to all be slaughtered.
Look at all the good she did. Mother Nyssen, even in death, eliminated crime in the city of Berlin.
She's the best. She wins. We're down with her. Okay, you got a Ja oder Nein for me, Matt. That was truly brilliant.
Yeah, Benke.
Oh yeah,
our favorite Elisabeth Benke keeps freezing up.
That's true.
Every time that Katelbach proposes.
That's true.
Should she take this as a hint that maybe she should try and date someone else, maybe like Malu, or perhaps maybe Katelbach should just get the hint and back off? What do you think? Ja oder Nein?
So wait a minute. What is the actual yes or no? That she should date somebody else?
Oh, both. It's a bonus.
Okay, well, give me both questions. I just want to be sure. So is one, should she date somebody else?
Should she date somebody else? Okay. Just using Malu as an example, since she seems to be so interested in phone conversations with her. Ja oder Nein. And should Katelbach just take a hint, buddy? Ja oder Nein?
All right, I'm going to go number one. Should Katelbach take a hint? Nine. He's in prison. He's so lonely. Never take no for an answer. He got a yes, so he got a ja, so he didn't get a ja, period. So never take no, keep fighting Katelbach. Now, as your question is, should Miss Elisabeth date somebody else? Yeah, her Katelbach's in prison. You know, you're lonely. She literally was visiting Katelbach and she got the Arrested Development no touching meme. So I'm saying, yeah, Miss Elisabeth, date somebody else. 9, Katelbach, don't take no for an answer.
All right. I agree with you on both counts. I mean, how can you disagree with that? I mean, Benke's just too good for Katelbach. But Katelbach needs some kind of hope to hold on to, at least while in prison. She can crush his soul after that.
Okay, I've got a question, a final Ja oder Nein question for you, Matt, that'll lead into our next segment. Okay. And that is, I'm going to name you a list of characters, and you're going to say, yeah, they're going to make it and appear in season 5, or 9, that's the last we've seen of them. So you ready?
Okay.
Let's start with Esther. She's gone to America for a possible film career. Will Esther return for season 5? Ja oder Nein?
Yeah. Too big a star. You got to have her back somehow.
I think I agree with you on that. She can't just leave her kids in exile if she really loves her kids, and I think she does. Yeah. So I'm going to say, yeah, we will see Esther in season 5. What about Malu? Malu is on a Zeppelin to the States. Malu comes back. Her father actually shocked me. Her father appeared in an episode here in the final 4. Is Malu going to appear in season 5? Ja oder Nein?
I'm going to say 9. I'm going to say that the actress has probably moved on to another series. That's a bad way to speculate about this, but I can't see any storyline needing her after this point. She's got the Communist Party after her. She's got the Nazi Party after her. Where's she going to go except stay in the United States? Unless we have a bit of season 5 in the U.S. itself, but I can't see that happening either.
No, Matt, I think I agree with you. I love Malu. Obviously, this actress is very cute. That side of the story of the people trying to fight for communism and against the Nazi Party, I think the show does need more characters than Dr. Volker. But right now, I think you're right. I think that was it. She flew away and flew the coop. All right, Matt, I am going to go way back to the end of season 2.
Uh-oh.
Svetlana, and of course, her lovely lover, musician player, who was unable to be killed. I can't even remember his name. What was his name again? I got to figure out what was his name.
Cannot remember for the life.
Oh, hold on. I'm going to find it in a second. So will he be back for season 5? Are we going to get somebody like Svetlana back? An earlier character who has seemingly disappeared. Are they going to come back for season 5, Matt? What do you think?
Somebody like Svetlana, maybe? I thought Svetlana was dead.
Well, that's what we thought. That's what I thought, Matt. But you said, no, he's not going to kill Svetlana. She got to Paris. She got away.
Oh, did I say that?
That's what you said at the end of season 2. So
you remember better than me. I was wrong. She dead. She gone, as Catfish likes to say.
How could you set Lotta's? We're losing all the lovely ladies in this cast. That is heartbreaking. So real quick,
Bubba, think about this. If you got a bunch of Nazis running around beating people up, do you want one of them to be Malu? Do you want one of them to be Svetlana? Do you want one of them to be even Dr. Volker? I don't want to see that. Let's get them out. Let's let them get away. Let's let Esther have a wonderful movie career in the United States. Maybe a cameo appearance from Esther, just simply in a Gereon and Charlotte watching a film at a movie theater.
Are you, Matt? You're writing your own show. I love it.
I am.
Let's go.
Because I have no choice. They haven't started production yet.
Okay, I'm literally pausing the podcast. Oh, it's Kardakov. That's who it was. How could we forget good old Kardakov? Unkillable from season 1 and season 2. Kardakov. He won't be back in season 5, right? He is
the immortal. He is the immortal.
He is. There can be only
He's got a better chance than any of the others.
Alrighty, so listeners, we love answering these silly questions. We hope you love listening to them, and please, please, please give us your thoughts. What do you think about those characters? Will they be returning for season 5? Okay, Matt, speaking of season 5, this gets to the wish list. We have watched 4 seasons of this show. These are longer seasons. Heck, this season had 12 episodes. We only have 1 season left. Season 5 is going to be it. You've been a fan watching all these seasons. What do you want? What do you want to see in season 5?
Well, I think top of my list is to see Lotta survive.
Yes. Oh,
and
yes.
Although I don't want to see her suffer what I know is coming for that country. But at the same time, I don't want to see her killed. The person I do want to see killed, Dr. Anna Schmidt. I must see the end of him. I also want to see the end of Gereon because you can't have this one guy, your hero guy, take on the entire Nazi party and win. It doesn't happen, right? And so he has to get defeated somehow.
Matt, I think these are great points. It would heartbreak me, but I'm gonna kind of piggyback on that, even though I don't want to see that happen to Rath. What I want is, I've said it multiple times already in this podcast, I have grown to love these characters. They are characters that I'm somehow, some way emotionally connected to. And so on one hand, I want to see all the characters we love. And who are those characters? Well, it's Rath, it's Lotta, it's Graf. Graf really had a minimal role in this season. And of course, he's filming the new season of The White Lotus. I hope he'll have a big role in season 5. But I want Graf. I want the Buddha. Who else do I love? Of course, I love Henning and Chervinsky. I want the characters we love to Miss Elisabeth, Katelbach. I want them to somehow survive what's happening to Germany. And that most likely means I want them to somehow get out of Germany and flee somewhere safe. On the flip side, I think that the show does need to kind of show us how the whole country got swept up. And so what that means is that I think some characters who we might have grown attached to, like, and I tease Moritz and Toni because we got so frustrated with them at times, but I kind of do want them to somehow somebody has to get swept up and show the kind of how evil can take over somebody. We know Wendt is evil. We know poor Nyssen is, kind of foolish and can get swept up in it. We need a character who will shock us and heartbreak us to see get taken into this.
Nothing would make me feel better, Bubba, than to see Moritz standing at Hitler's side, being a good little Nazi again, and Toni with her head shaved. And
are you being serious, Matt? Because what's
I am
that
not.
Is kind of.
I am absolutely not. I don't think I don't want that to happen. But I'm not going to say that it won't.
And how about this? I also want. How to say this without? I don't know spoilers at this point. There's rumors that once again this is going to go up to the fall of 32, I believe, is what they said. But there's a part of me that thinks let's talk about Ruki, the boxer. Ruki is treated terribly when he's fighting in the fight, right? People are like, we want to root for the German, not the mongrel. I almost think they call him. The terrible comments they say about him.
Even Gypsy is such a terrible word.
It is. And yet you can imagine that in addition to treating the Jewish population of Germany horrific and beyond the pale, there's a part of me that also thinks that Charlotte is, quote unquote, got some, I can't think of a nice way to say it, the gypsy blood. I could see them attacking her. Yeah. Even Uncle Grun, Goldstein's uncle, who I'm pretty sure only showed up this season. I don't want to see terrible things happening to these characters, but there's a reason why in that final episode, I think it was the final episode, where they kept showing Rookie Trollman just getting attacked by the fans, the Nazis in the crowd. It was horrific, and I could see something happening there. Now, Rookie Trollman, as I've mentioned before, is also a real-life character. I did look up his history, but I can't recall it right now, and so I'm very worried for him and for what they may do to Charlotte if they find out about her true heritage. So it's tough. I think you need to see it so it's realistic, but I want all my characters I love to escape. So that's what I want from season 5.
Yeah, Bubba, you're depressing me. Let's skip ahead to something else.
We like to do this at the end of every season. We play Who's the Worst. That's where we go through the characters, pit them against each other to find out who is the worst of all the worst characters here on Babylon Berlin. So, Matt, we're going to start off with the 16 seeds. We're going to go with Malu Seegers. She is fighting the good fight, but she saved Wendt. She was willing to risk her own body to save somebody killing evil, terrible Commandant Wendt. Is she the worst, or is Baum, who we were just talking about, Murder Chief Boom, however that you pronounce it, he sold out the cops. He let a massacre happen in the police chief station because he was financially ruined. Who's the worst, Baum or Malu, Matt? Who you got?
Well, first of all, I just want to say to the listeners and watchers, we know that sometimes the things that we say during these kind of segments sometimes get taken a little bit too seriously. We don't mean any of this.
No.
We're just trying to entertain you, to be perfectly honest. And that's why I say Malu is the worst. Here's why.
Okay. Sure.
Lack of commitment. She had committed to the communist cause. She backed out.
That's true.
Baum goes through with the plan, lets the Armenian in, gets everything done because he is committed to his family. Commitment is a key to being better, and Malu has demonstrated none of it.
Now, that is a good argument, Matt. And in fact, you've already convinced me, but for the sake of argument, I will go ahead and argue that Baum is the worst. What was Malu's probably worst crime? She stopped someone from being murdered. What did Baum's crime? He allowed and helped dozens of, maybe 12 or more people get murdered. So technically, if you're like, your worst thing is you didn't help somebody get murdered, even though you planned to all along, there is a part of me that would say, come on, Baum's got to be worse. But you know what, Matt? Things I like more than TV murders are people who get on with a plan and do it, not people who back out at the last minute. So I'll agree with you. Malu Seegers, of these two, is the worst. But now Malu's going to go up against a very hard competition in the second round, Matt. It's Malu Seegers. She saved Wendt from a assassination attempt. She's going up against a character who has graduated from being in the mini-Wurst competition to the full-grown adult Wurst competition, Moritz. Moritz found out that his uncle/father figure, Rath, was going to sell out Stennes and the SA. And he tattletaled on his father, Rath. He chose the SA and Stennes over Rath. Moritz or Malu? Matt, who do you got as the worst?
I hate that I have to always be the first one to answer this because I always have to give
I'll answer first next time.
All right. Well, this one's a tough one because you have both having commitment problems.
That's true. That's very true.
Malu can't commit to the communist cause. Moritz cannot simply be a good little Nazi. Instead, he has to run off with Toni at the end of the season.
Well,
that's a lack of commitment to the cause, right? So I think what I'm going to have to go to is simply the fact that there's a demonstration of commitment in another way, and that is a commitment to Toni. He kills for Toni. What does Malu do? She saves lives for Wendt. For Wendt, of all people. I mean, look what Moritz did. He saved Toni. Charlotte Latte is even grateful for what Moritz did. And therefore, Moritz is a better person. And Malu is still the worst.
Matt, I can say this, having done all these Babylon Berlin podcasts with you. You should be a lawyer. You have grown into the role. You have passed the bar.
Just don't call me Linton. Don't call me Linton.
I'm not sure you could have done this. You couldn't have done this in season 1 or season 2, but you have studied for the bar. You have passed the bar, and you are convincing me before I even get a chance to speak. I will, as due diligence, I will sell out Moritz here. In that, what did Moritz do to the admittedly crooked cop from Station 14? He did kill him. What did Malu do? She prevented somebody from being killed. But because of my now 3.5 seasons of hating Wendt and the fact that she saved him, oh my God, she's the worst. Now, Moritz did really save his father figure, Rath, his uncle Rath. So, oh my goodness, Malu Seegers has somehow gone 2-0 in the first 2 rounds of this. But listeners, there are so many people. Here we go. Oh boy.
I will also say this, just to sum up this argument, to make it more clear for you, Bubba.
Sure.
Malu, what is she doing? Lying to Wendt all the time. Then lying to Volker.
That's right.
At the end, by standing in front of the bullet. Moritz, what's he doing? When he's asked, when he needs to, he volunteers the truth about who his father is and how he is infiltrating the SA and trying to do things. Truthful guy, Moritz there. Now, let's put Malu, this lying, uncommitted woman.
Yes.
Let's put her against someone who's a little bit of a sniveling kind of idiot, but don't let that fool you. Don't let that fool you, because he will blow up an entire ship for Mother Nyssen. He will, in fact, murder scores of people.
Yes.
Just for his Mother Nyssen to be rich. Or, well, not his mother, but for our Mother Nyssen to be rich. What do you think, Bubba?
You're talking about Wegener. How do you say it? Wegener.
I'll say Wegener with the
Wegener. Okay, so he had the Blue Rothschild and didn't immediately turn it over to get Mother Nyssen and Helga back. He killed somebody in the past, we find out, to literally become the Nyssen family butler. To me, that shows that you've got no skills. How about this? You had the Blue Rothschild. You could have saved Mother Nyssen, but you didn't. And now you don't have the Blue Rothschild anymore, and you're still a butler for being incompetent in everything. Malu Seegers, say what you want to about her allowing evil Scarface Wendt to live. She did have a successful infiltration of the blimp, of the Zeppelin, and get those plans from her communist traitor boyfriend and get them to Volker. So she succeeded in what she wanted to do. This season, Wegener, he failed at everything. So I'm saying he's the worst.
It's very interesting because to me, sometimes the end result is what matters. And since Wegener did give the Blue Rothschild to Goldstein.
Wait, is that the end result that matters? How about Mother Nyssen is dead?
You know, he made one Mother Nyssen by stealing the thing in the first place. Okay. He can make another. And so I'm saying that because of that, look at what Goldstein then does. Goldstein gives the jewel back to the community, the place where it belongs. Thanks to Wegener. The jewel ends up in the place where it should be. Have we ever seen Malu do anything correctly in that big of a stroke, where a whole community is actually given a gift through Malu's actions? No. Instead, she saves a bad dude.
No, forget this. Malu cannot win. Malu, as far as who's the worst, Malu was going to end up being tortured and possibly worse from Wendt because she allowed Wendt to find out about her evil plans. Yet not only did she get those documents back from the evil communist spy, possibly American communist spy, got the plans back to Volker. She also is getting out of the country. Wendt can't torture her if she's on a Zeppelin ride to the United States. Matt, how in the world does she's leaving on a Zeppelin plane. Wegener is still going to have to wake up and answer your phone calls. Which would you rather be at this moment in time, Matt? Would you rather be Malu traveling to America or Wegener getting Nissen's phone calls?
You've just made my argument for me. Malu, a coward, fleeing.
Yes.
Wegener, staying and facing the truth.
There's no truth. He didn't even tell Nissen that he had the Rothschild diamond.
He's sticking around, unlike Malu, who's fleeing out wherever she can get to.
All right. How about this? We'll put this as a tie for right now, and we'll put both of them into the fourth round. Here we go. So you've got Malu or Wegener or our fourth competitor, Judge Voss. Now, remember, Judge Voss is the judge of the White Hand. He was doing extrajudicial judgment and punishment, killing people just because he wanted to. He was rude to the Grun and Goldstein at the cafe. His wife was running pretty much a child labor camp where Toni was imprisoned. Who's the worst? Malu, Wegener, or Judge Voss? Matt, who you got?
Well, I can tell you it's not Judge Voss. And here's why.
Of course not. Who? Let's hear it.
The world's greatest shuffleboard player. I mean,
it isn't even shuffleboard.
I don't know what it is, but it looks like shuffleboard, and I'm saying that he is fantastic at it. Nobody at that place can beat him. That's for sure. He runs a tight court. It takes a woman shooting him in the leg to stop his court from happening. This guy is committed. Again, Malu, no commitment.
Okay. Judge Voss, once again, who would you rather be at the end of the season? Fleeing and on a Zeppelin because your plan succeeded, or limping for the rest of your life in prison because you got caught by a girl?
A criminal on the run for the wrongs and the lack of commitment that she has, as opposed to a man who stands up for what is.
He can't stand up. He's been shot in the leg, right? Has he not been shot in the leg? He can't stay. He's got nothing to stand on.
I give. You decide then, Bubba. You decide.
Judge Voss defeats evil Malu. Malu, you went as far as you could. You did really good, but Judge Voss.
I tried really hard, Malu. I really worked for you. I swear.
All right, well, let's go to the fifth round, Matt. Who you got for me to put Judge Voss against?
Well, you give us a lowdown on this, because now the game just doesn't matter anymore. Judge Voss.
Yes.
Guy got shot by a woman who's not even a cop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my gosh. Versus a gentleman who we thought was dead, in fact was not dead, found out the truth about Walter and Esther, decided that he was going to have to do something about it, but before he did, Walter did something about it. Nothing but a pure victim, this dude. But, he's also got to take it out on some criminals at the end. He's got to make sure. Look, the guy is a dead man who just wants peace. And now the entire cartel are a bunch of dead men or women who just want peace. What do you think? Is it going to be Judge Voss, the evil white-gloved judge, or the helpless Armenian?
Okay, so who's the worst? He's somebody who allowed Walter Weintraub, a.k.a. somebody that his wife had the hots for, to move into his house. Then he gets upset that his wife and Walter Weintraub keep having a relationship. Then he almost gets killed and loses his best feature, his beard. I'm saying that then, if that wasn't even worse enough, he kidnaps his children from his wife and tells his wife, I'm getting rid of you because you only mourn me for a month. Edgar, the Armenian, you are making Judge Voss look good. And so sadly, even though I've loved you all these seasons, Edgar, the Armenian, right now, you being a murderous cuck, you're the worst. Who you got, Judge Voss or the Armenian, man?
I guess that I have to just prove to you what a wonderful person, what a wonderful citizen look at what will happen to this crime wave. For right now, the Armenians single-handedly wiped out crime ring after crime ring after crime ring, all seated at the same table in one blow. Something that the Buddha could never do.
No, that's true.
And so, because he has made Berlin's streets safe again, that is much better than Judge Voss just picking up a pedophile every once in a while and shooting him in the head.
Yeah, I don't even know. Matt, once again, how you have gone to law school since we've started doing these podcasts
online.
Is incredible.
Online at the Jeffries Institute.
You have convinced me again. Somehow Judge Voss is, I guess, winning the Wurst. He's more of the Wurst than the Armenian. Ooh, but here we go. This is some good challenges right here, and I'll go first. It's Judge Voss versus Scarface Wendt. Evil Colonel Wendt. So Colonel Wendt, way back in season 2, plotted the murder of Benda, an innocent person who he wanted his position. He also hated the fact that this person was Jewish, and he led a plot with Nazis, used Nazis to kill Benda. Do I choose him or Judge Voss? Both of them in this season are trying to protect law and order, meaning the judge is terribly wrong and evil, but he thinks he's keeping crime off the streets. He's not letting people go unpunished. He's punishing the people who deserve punishment. Where in this season, Wendt, say what you want about him, he thinks Stennes is terrible. He's going to ruin the party. He's not able to be charismatic like Hitler. And so if you put Stennes in charge instead of Hitler, the Nazi party will fall apart. Okay, I've just explained it. Wendt must be the worst. He's a Nazi. He's the worst, Matt. That's my vote. How about you?
Wendt is the worst, huh?
That's what I'm saying.
I just can't seem to find myself to bring myself to agree with you, Bubba. And here's why.
Okay.
Think of the wonderful lines of poetic, beautiful words that he said to Malu in certain scenes where he was describing pure love. He got rid of Stennes.
Right.
This guy cannot possibly be worse than some 2-bit judge who plays shuffleboard really well, who runs 2-minute trials and is doing it all illegally. Wendt is better than Voss.
Okay, you've just made the case for Wendt by pointing out that he's the worst because he's making out with beautiful Malu and we are not. So therefore, you've proved it, Matt. Wendt is the worst.
Oh, I got fooled. I got fooled by the internet.
Okay.
Bubba is the internet.
All right, how about Stennes? This is a real-life historical figure. And when I Googled him, because he showed up in season 3 of Babylon Berlin, I learned the whole fascinating truth about Stennes, including the fact he didn't get killed, get arrested, or anything in World War II, because pretty much this action led him to be exiled from Germany, so he wasn't around. Yet he is a terrible, evil Nazi who, I guess in a positive way, hates Hitler. So is it better to go with a violent, evil, anti-Semitic jerk, but at least one who hates Hitler, or one who isn't as quite outwardly violent, but supports Hitler in Colonel Wendt? Oh boy, this is tough. But because Stennes never got punished by history, in truly what I would say punished by history, he should have been in prison for the rest of his life, maybe corporal punishment the rest of his life, but he didn't. So because of that, I'm angry about history. I'm saying Stennes is the worst. Who you got, Double M?
I hate to say this, Bubba, but I completely agree with you simply for the fact that for the last 2 seasons of us covering the show, I've heard nothing but you telling us about how you've read about the history of Walter Stennes. And so therefore, I agree with you. Let's move Stennes on up the ladder. This guy, even though he's a Hitler hater, he's a double H.
Yep.
It seems that he is necessary to move on. It just doesn't match up to Wendt, who is, of course, professing love to people who are tricking.
Brother. Yeah, people in the park who he'll have sex with. All right, so Stennes won, but wait a minute, Matt. Hold on. Stennes won the Who's the Worst at the end of the season. he has to compete about the winner of Who's the Worst from the beginning of the season. And considering this character won it in the beginning of the season and has won it twice in all the times we've been doing this podcast, it seems like Stennes faces a tough task. So who you got? You got Berlin SA leader Stennes, Nazi who at this point thought Hitler wasn't mean and evil enough, or is it possible that R.I.P. Rudy, the two-time winner of Who's the Worst, who got and killed earlier in this season? Who you got? Who's the worst, Rudy or Stennes?
Bubba, thanks to your ponderous history that you've given us time and time again about Walter Stennes, we know that he lives.
Yep.
Rudy, dead. And so, therefore, Stennes is better. And Rudy is worse.
You are going to, I'm just going to ask this real quick, Matt. I will ask you this one question, and then we will wrap this up. Rudy, who has been named the winner of Who's the Worst twice, who was killed this season. You're going to literally hold that against him.
Absolutely. He was hearing the wrong song in his head, man. You can't do that on your last moments. You got to think of something a little better than that, dude.
Matt, I am very frustrated with you, and I have to say that Rudy, if he hadn't been murdered, he would have helped Charlotte and Rath uncover the evilness of the White Hand in Judge Voss episodes earlier.
Again, ineffective. He was already on the case as far as his boss was going. Look what it got him. Look what it got him, Bubba. Definitely the worst.
Somehow, some way, 3-time champion. R.I.P. Rudy. How you're going to win it in season 5, Rudy, is going to be very difficult to say. But we tip our cap. All somebody has to do is
mention your name, Rudy. That's all they got to do. Just mention your name.
We tip our cap to 3-time winner, R.I.P., the character Rudy, the winner 3 times of Who's the Worst. Listeners, this is, as Matt pointed out, meant to be light and silly as we review the series and talk about these evil characters. Reach out to us at PHQ on social media, YouTube, leave the comments. Who do you think Who's the Worst? Well, okay, let's just run through the rest of these storylines and let's get to what I thought was the main storyline, but got wrapped up in number 9, and that is this White Hand in Judge Voss. It ends with Toni and Moritz leaving and going off west. I assume that means Paris, if they go that far west. Any thoughts about where Toni and Moritz could end up or how they ended up together and are leaving Berlin? What do you think about that?
I'm just hoping that they get somewhere out of that country because they both need a fresh start. Moritz still hasn't proven to me that he can completely straighten up and fly right. But I do believe that with an inspiration like Toni, who also has her own little hookups, her own little hangups as well. But maybe the two of them can forge a new life, maybe in Amsterdam or somewhere like that, where they can just get out from underneath this boot heel of oppression that they both feel like they're under. Moritz hasn't had it all that bad, but he's perceived a lot of things in a way that you would think a typical teenager kid would, and he's lashed out in some ways, especially for that time, that I imagine a lot of teenagers did by joining the SA or the youth, the Hitler Youth or what have you. Let's hope that somebody takes him in. There's already this guy that they've loaded onto the truck, or that has a truck that they've loaded onto, who seems like he's treating them pretty nice. He didn't even question them or whatever. They're just heading west. He's heading west. Let's go. So
let's go. That's what I say.
Let's get him out of there. I hope that they do well. I hope that we never see them again, to be perfectly honest.
Matt,
that would tell me it was a good ending.
Matt, we've gone pretty far, and we haven't talked about the ship. Lotta and Gereon, Rath and Charlotte. They dance at the end of this season. Charlotte gets her badge back, and they have a passionate night. They're a couple, you would have to assume. Where do you see this going in season 5? Did you like that after all this will they, won't they? We had several episodes of will they? They will.
Yeah. Well, as I think we discussed in the last podcast, there was some great music that came out of them being together, which I absolutely loved. But On the other hand, as far as their relationship goes,
Yeah.
I can only imagine that they can spend a part of season 5 just based on the big ending that they gave us for season 4, that there's going to be some friction there again because, where were you? I can't tell you that. I was going to go kill my brother, but I can't tell you that. So I don't know. I hope that they're in a good place, but that's what happens to these couples, right? They, you go, will they, won't they? And then they do. And then they go, well, now we're stuck here. What are we going to do to break it back up and make so that they can come back together again? It seems very TV tropic to me.
Yes. Well, I want them to end up together in season 5. I want them to be good. And what felt good is it was no longer a will they, won't they. I mean, after all these episodes, I don't think we can take any more will they, won't they. I'm glad they're together just as a storyline story.
That's true. That's very true.
Going over to what ended the season, I keep mentioning that the Walter Stennes story ended the season. I called it a whimper, but I do want to give a bit of a truth serum to myself here in that when it was the SA standing on one side with their clubs, and then it was Wendt with his Nazi party with guns on the other side, I was like, oh man. And then when Wendt ordered them to just shoot, I was like, holy crap. But of course, it ends the way it does. What was the tense moments in this storyline, the way it ended? Anything that you liked specifically? Moritz was really mixed messages, siding with Stennes and then not letting Rath kill somebody and then, saving Rath and then yet leaving Rath. How did you feel about this whole Nazi storyline, how it wrapped up?
Well, the whole Moritz, betraying Gereon thing didn't really bother me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was something that was expected for me. It's just like, that's the only way you can make this story go anywhere now, at least as far as Rath is concerned. So I was okay with that. I really enjoyed that fight scene with the big guy in the coal room. I thought that was fun and well done. And I would imagine that Rath would have wished he'd had one of his little drugs that his brother had given him before in order to do that a little easier. But at the same time, bringing a knife to a gunfight's just not a good idea, man. I don't know what the SA was thinking there, what Stennes was thinking. On the other hand, I suppose that really vilifies Wendt in a way too, because Stennes was probably depending on Wendt's honor.
Yep.
Right? Wendt totally betrayed that. So it was compelling enough, but it was kind of like it's like, put that in episode 9. Let's do that in episode 9 and do the whole Charlotte thing, because the Charlotte storyline is the thing in the prison finding Toni. That's going to be the subject of my music analysis. That was so emotional for me.
Yeah.
That to me, that would have been a better finish. But I guess you needed some time to let that breathe out a little bit, which is why they put it so far up in the lineup of the mini endings.
I get so. Quickly, let's talk about Alfred, Nyssen, and Helga at the end. Helga's, once again, I mentioned, she's telling the Nazi press leader, we've got to meet this charismatic Hitler everybody's talking about. While Grun, I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce Grun's Abe's uncle, and the Jewish community have this incredibly rich diamond. They are not going to have a good time in Berlin much longer.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say about how this ended, about the shocks of how evil Mother Nyssen was, how cold Helga was to just leave her kidnapped? Any thoughts on the final bit of this storyline?
The one thing that I want to say that I really appreciated most about this story is that the growth of Goldstein himself.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It was incredible. Him getting reconnected with his roots, with his family, and then ultimately something that he'd never even considered when he first got there, even told his uncle so.
Yep.
I'm taking that jewel back to the States. This is ours, and it's not going to stay here. It's mine. And leaving it on the gravestone, that was a wonderful gesture. Granted, again, a little TV-friendly kind of thing, but it was the watching of the character grow. It was especially that performance of Frigilent and seeing the way it affected him and how that changed everything. And him giving Wegener a break rather than just killing him. And then doing the thing. That was part that was much more interesting to me than Nyssen, who just got hypnotized and learned a breathing exercise so that he could let go of the fact that he was never going to see his mother again, may never even see his wife again. The fact that Helga is a murderer too, because she left the old woman down there.
Heck yeah.
All of those things are fine. They're great. They're great storylines. I did come away from the season liking Helga even less than I liked her before.
Exactly. Yes.
So those were the big impressions that I got out of that storyline. And, I thought you brought up an interesting question about, is Nyssen's mother actually in the coffin or not?
I hope she is, now that I realize that I missed her in the river. I hope that's her. Let's go, Mother Nyssen. Real quickly, let's talk about the mob war boxing storyline. And I want to give a tip of my cap to this actor who plays Walter Weintraub. I'll be honest. He grew on me. His actor's name is Ronald Zerfeld. We only met him in season 3. He was a new character, aka here's how we're gonna have a new storyline. How he came in, but he's incredibly charismatic as an actor, and I think he was equal when all was said and done to the charismatic part of the Armenian. He loved and lost in both ways. He loved Edgar, and Edgar killed him. He loved Esther, and Esther realized that he was good for a fling and not really her man. So I just want to say goodbye to this actor and this interesting character. Goodbye, Walter Weintraub. You went down not swinging, but filled with lead. You got any thoughts on the boxing storyline here, Matt?
I actually kind of really rooted for the Armenian after the way that I saw him die.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, after the way that I saw him being betrayed by Walter, who was not only messing around with his wife, but now attempting to kill him. It's like lose the beard and lose all conviction, or lose all scruples, I guess I should say. I kind of rooted for him. I'm glad he took those guys out. So that was interesting for me. Some of the things that he was doing after that, in terms of, the cruelty to Esther didn't really jive with me too well, but he didn't kill her.
No, he did not. She's the mother of she's the mother of his children. She just stole the children and told her to get out of the country.
Yeah. He could have done much worse on that front. I kind of really enjoyed that storyline. It didn't play out exactly the way that I thought it would. I don't know how predictable it looked to you.
No, I think you're right. It did have twists and turns about, like, you knew somebody was setting up something evil to go down in the police station. But there was always a part of me of that, was it Weintraub doing it? Because, he goes to the grave and he's like, What would you do, Edgar? And so I thought, maybe is he doing it? I knew that little side character mobster who is named Fuchs. I kept thinking, well, maybe he is, it seemed like he was with the Armenian, but the Armenian shot him dead too. So
gotta take care of all the witnesses, baby.
Yeah, there can be none. There can be no witnesses. So shocking and good, and it ended up pretty much in episode 10. Admittedly, there's some fallout that continued over the next 2 episodes, but the judge, the White Hand storyline ended in episode 9 pretty much. The mobster boxing storyline ended in episode 10 pretty much.
Yeah.
Do you want to get to say anything about this communist? This guy, oh my God, this communist who might be a spy for the Americans at this point. Somehow he was really the worst. He should have been on the.
He should have been on the list. You don't treat Malu like that,
Oscar.
Man. You don't do that to Malu. That was absolutely awful. Gee whiz! This person who'd been helping you and everything, and then you backstab her like that.
Yeah, so terrible. The fight in Litton's office where he came and said, "No, I can't have pictures of the documents. I need them." Oh, this guy somehow was equal to Wendt in evilness. That said, the storyline did give me one shining moment, and that is with Wendt thinks he's got Oscar. Wendt thinks he's won, and then the American soldier comes in and says, no, let him go. Let him go on this Zeppelin. He's our guy. And Wendt losing is one of my favorite things of all Babylon Berlin. Him looking at the Zeppelin flying away and realizing he lost, that's almost worth everything else. Everything else could be terrible. As long as Wendt loses and looks miserable, that's gold for me.
And I love the way that foreshadows a lot of things that the American government did do in regards to that point in World War II and beyond, and that is grant diplomatic immunity or at least asylum to some of these people not to get them away from the Nazis as so much as to have their knowledge.
Yep, that is right, Matt.
Yeah. So it was a good little demonstration of this happened. Folks. That's why you got the Apollo 9 rocket later.
Matt, the Katelbach press storyline almost feels unresolved. Katelbach is left in prison. Miss Elisabeth and Lytton are totally at wit's end. If we come back to season 5, I assume Katelbach's still in prison, or is he finally being released? Are you happy with this? Do you want these two oddball lovebirds to end up together? Where do you see this going?
If you'd asked me in season 3, do I ship Katelbach and Binky? Yeah. I'd probably said yes.
I love it.
Not so much now. No. Because I'm seeing that hesitation in Binky.
That's
the whole time, and that's making me think, okay, maybe this isn't the right thing then. I mean, she's never going to get Gereon, right?
No.
But there's got to be somebody out there better than Katelbach.
Saying it like this, now I just realize I want Miss Katelbach to flee Germany too. She's got to live. I feel terrible. This woman's wonderful, sweet. She's doing all the right things. Get her out of there as well.
Yeah, I think he's got to get out of there somehow.
We've groaned at this character a whole bunch of times. Schmidt, anything you want to say anymore? I mean, this is...
Kill him already!
He's built an army, Matt, of these wounded PTSD soldiers from World War I. What's he going to do with his army? Turn them over to Hitler? What do you think he's going to do?
And that's the thing and why does he want Gereon to lead them? What has Gereon graduated to in order to be able to even... I think what they're trying to demonstrate is just how much Anno is losing his mind. Because,
that's a good call. And Rath is kind of losing his mind too.
Well, yeah. Rath, this whole thing, this whole journey with him or the two of them this season has been a deterioration for the both of them, it feels like to me. So what will that mean for our big hero? I hope what it means for our villain, as I said before. Kill him, kill him, kill him, kill him. It's over.
Listeners, what do you want to know? What do you need to see in season 5? Tell us. If we were too tough on the end of season 4, let us know. Matt, it is time for your musical analysis, the Triple M Matt Murdock's musical analysis. What are you going to talk about this week?
Well, one of the storylines that I said earlier just really moved me was the whole Charlotte Toni reuniting at the prison after she shot everybody and boiled a couple of people.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. There was a piece of scoring that was done right as they were starting, right after the room had cleared, and it was just really Rath and her and Toni in the room at that point. Just done on piano, but it perfectly demonstrated all of the scoring concepts you need in terms of emptiness and space to demonstrate those kind of emotions being in Charlotte.
Let's talk about a theme that is associated with Abe Gold and with the Blue Rothschild itself. You can find it on the volume 3 of the official soundtrack under the title Der Blaue Rothschild. Literal translation, the Blue Rothschild. And you'll hear it under many scenes, especially in this stretch of episodes, underneath when we see Goldstein, and when we see any allusion to the diamond itself, which is, of course, mostly with gold, sometimes with Nyssen. It sounds like this. Now, one of the things that's really cool about it is the timbres that are used. But first, I want to point out how in my left hand on the piano, I had to do kind of polyrhythms between my pinky and my thumb. It's like the bass line goes on beats of 3 for the most part, and the opposing rhythm goes on the other 2 beats, kind of fills them up. They do cross at one point, and the piece is actually in the meter of 4/4, meaning that there's 4 counts, and that's what the melody follows. But because you have these kind of groups of 3s until you get to the end and everything recycles again, it creates an additional kind of tension. The other thing is every 4th chord, like it goes from G to B flat to F and then up to A, on those A chords, while the melody is playing a flat 6, and you don't need to know these terms, but the melody emphasizes E flats while the harmony emphasizes E natural. So it's being derived from 2 different kinds of scales, and it gives it a complexity and a depth that really adds to the theme and helps to kind of demonstrate the deep culture that is the Jewish culture, as well as the deep history that these families have with this particular jewel. Another interesting thing is, of course, the timbres, because sometimes you'll hear the clarinet playing the melody, sometimes you'll hear a violin playing the melody, sometimes you'll hear both of them playing it together, sometimes you'll hear a stringed instrument playing the melody, like a harp, a plucked string kind of sound. It's really cool, and the counter rhythms, and sometimes even the bass line, is done with a kalimba or xylophone type of instrument as well. And all of these timbres make everything seem very culturally rich, which is something that I really enjoy about Klimek and Tickworks stuff, especially for this particular season. And that's all we've got for music this time around.
Whoa, Matt, that was wonderful work as usual. Matt, we've got some more games to play, but real quickly, if people want to reach out to you specifically about this musical analysis, how did they reach out to you on the web?
Sure, you can find me on the site formerly known as Twitter at Musical Concepts, or you can just go to mattsaudioblog.com, M-A-T-T-S, audioblog.com, and use the contact form there to contact me.
Love it. You have been doing wonderful work since we started this crazy podcast way back when. All right, listeners, before we get to your feedback, we're going to do a couple of things we do on every episode of BERLIN Babble podcast. Our Nyssen of the week. This is the character who maybe is going to get slapped by his wife the hardest, who's going to chill out at home the hardest, who's going to celebrate being rich and not having a domineering mother figure anymore the most. Matt, who is your Nyssen of the week?
It's hard not to vote for just Nyssen himself.
It sure is.
In the end. I guess what I will do is I will give it to Voss for believing that he could stand up against Charlotte with a weapon. That's stupidity. Shoot him in the leg again, please, Latte. Please shoot him in the leg again. So Voss is my Nyssen of the week.
You are so right, Matt, that you should always give it to Nyssen. But this week, I've mentioned him so much already. I'm giving it to Stennes. You went down with a whimper. You were like talking a big game. Hey, I'm going to take over Nazi headquarters. I'm going to take over this newspaper. What is the newspaper get called again? I got it right here. It's called, in English, it's called the Attack der Angriff. You're like, I'm going to take over this paper. I'm going to make sure that it says that I'm the leader of the Nazi party. Stennes, you hashtag had one job and you failed at that job. You are my Nyssen of the week. We next cover our Sweet Scheisse, a moment that shocks us, make us say, good God, y'all. Sweet Scheisse moment. What's your Sweet Scheisse for this podcast, Matt?
Nothing made me exclaim Sweet Scheisse as, and I said it a few times during these last 4 episodes, mostly not in a good way. But true. This one I said in a good way, and that was when Charlotte shoved that cop into the boiling water and closed the lid, baby.
Heck yes.
It's like, Sweet Scheisse, we're having boiled pork.
Matt, you love murder a bit too much from this and Who's the Worst game, but I completely agree. But my Sweet Scheisse moment, and this doesn't really fit, but it's the one that's coming to me right now. Seeing Graf dance with Jacoby, seeing Charlotte dance with her brother Ruki and Rath, seeing all those people happy there at the tavern, seeing our singer back singing Ein Tag with Gold again. That's how we want the season to end. That's how we want their lives to end. We know history won't allow them to have such a happy ending. But for me, it was not a sweet Scheisse moment so much as sweet Scheisse. We got to the end. So that's my moment for this podcast.
Max Raba got too much screen time.
Hey, how could you, Matt? You're standing, your background right now is of his band. How could you?
His band. I'm the leader.
Hell yeah. All right, hey, listeners, we love your feedback. We've said it so many times already. On YouTube, leave us those comments at PHQ, on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook.com. Look for Double P Podcast, Babylon Berlin Babble. We want to talk to you. What have our listeners said of us this week, Matt?
Well, we're going to start off with Edgar, who is Shiva 1742. This is one of the reasons why I prefaced our first game, saying, I do not care for the good German, bad German commentary. It's shallow and unmeaningful. Yes, that is correct.
Edgar, it's meant to be shallow, but it's also meant to be fun. We do an odd thing on this podcast where such serious violence, death, real-life tragedy, we somehow try to keep our podcast light and fun. And so know that we're going to keep doing it, but we will always add that disclaimer like Matt did at the beginning. Thank you very much for your feedback, though. Hey, if you have a problem with anything in this podcast, let us know.
Absolutely. We love that. Eric B. also says, that's Eric B. at 2501, says, too bad Netflix dropped a series. It is kind of difficult to maintain, 50 streaming accounts all the time, even if you're coming in and out of them. It's tough. I completely understand. You can binge this pretty quick, though, and then get out of there if that's what you want to do, perhaps even on their free trial.
Netflix is the number one streaming giant. They're the Goliath in the industry, but they always prefer the shows that they produce to be kind of pushed in front of viewers. And they never produced Babylon Berlin, so you would see it in their lineup, but it would never be kind of like pushed by Netflix because they didn't own the show. And so it's sad that a lot of people who love this series on Netflix probably won't go to MHZ Choice to find it, which is a shame. But what I love is that this small streamer in the States picked it up and did allow us to see it 2 years after everybody else's stuff. But thank you so much, MHZ Choice, for giving us this opportunity.
Upstream_paddler also says this, by the way, laugh out loud at this season's theme. If slowed down and not sped up, is the baby making jam of the Weimar Republic. Really? You would think as a musician I would recognize that. I did not. Wow. The beat has the potential to function as the German Karma Sutra.
On tag we go. Heck yeah. Love that feedback. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I did not catch that. Wow.
And our final bit of feedback this week is from a user with the handle OK Character. OK Character wrote, I've spent the better part of the last month thinking that Abe Gold and the Roman, the main Russian henchman from the Mayor of Kingstown season 3, look almost identical. So this person watches Mayor's Kingstown, and there's this character called Roman on that show, and he watches Babylon Berlin, and he's like, there's this character Abe Gold on this show. He's like, God, these guys look a lot alike. Finally, he checked out IMDb, and he hit his breaking point, and he found out that, guess what? It's the same actor. Actor Mark Ivaner, who is on, apparently, the Mayor of Kingstown, which our buddies on Daily DVR cover, and he's also here in season 4 of Babylon Berlin as Abe Gold. He wrote, crazy coincidence, although apparently I've seen him in other things as well. There you go.
Yeah, nothing like an IMDb page to refresh your memory, man. That's one of those things that just happen to me all the time, usually because I didn't know in the first place, but yeah.
What do you think there, Matt? Do you think it is kind of possible or good for an actor to apparently be so fluent in German that he can star in The Mayor of Kingstown, a show set here in the United States, as well as a show set in Germany where he has to speak German? Mike Ivaner, great job.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much, and I think we've had this discussion before, but it's so much nicer to be able to see actors and not even think about it, but just read the captions, because you get the real inflection of the natural language, and then you can just understand what they're trying to say, and you can get the feeling more than hearing AI, seemingly AI-generated voiceovers with the dubbed versions. I do appreciate the fact that, like with Netflix, you had to select whether you wanted one version or the other, whatever. What Megahertz has done is they've actually put them in two separate feeds so that you can select one feed or the other, if that's your preference, because everybody has their preference. I just prefer the other way. But this guy's German sounded completely natural to me when he was speaking.
What I also loved is they allowed Abe Gold, who's a guy who's been living in America all these years, they would allow him to slip into English and then slip into German and then back into English and American colloquial words throughout the season. So I really did like that. Now, I'm looking at his IMDb thing right now, and I'm like, oh, yeah, apparently he was on 5 episodes of that HBO show Barry. And I'm like, oh, I must have seen him multiple times. He's been on an episode of The Morning Show. For All Mankind, he was on 2 episodes. So this guy, great career. He was in Homeland. Remember that Showtime show? Yeah. So
one of my faves.
Tip of the cap to Abe Gold. Now Abraham Goldstein, he's going back to his real name. He's reclaiming his real name. So tip of my cap to him. Good job, buddy. All right, guys, it is going to be at least a year. Let's be honest. At least a year. And with America's history, possibly 3 to 4 years, 5 years, Matt, before we see the next versions of Babylon Berlin. But please join us here at WPHQ on all the great shows we cover. And follow along with us as we wait the long, cold march to 1932 Germany. For everybody here at WPHQ, my name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at WPHQ. Matt, where can people find you again?
Well, you've got nothing to do between now and 2028. You can find me on the internet at Musical Concepts on the site formerly known as Twitter.
Thank you. And you'll hear us next time on Babylon
Berlin
Babble. Matt, you're not allowed to get any better on Who's the First. You were so good. Like, it has to be close. You're crushing me. That's not fair, Matt. How dare you?
I'm not crushing anybody, Bubba. You're just, you've got to get more confidence.